got to be in the middle of the line, because that's the only part that hasn't been reinforced. So he decides he wants to have a big artillery barrage, try to soften up the defenses up here, and then he's going to bring in an infantry assault of the only fresh troops he has left and some of the remnants of the guys that just fought on day one. So that's what he's going to come up with. Everyone knows that this is a long shot. And what you have to remember is Lee doesn't have what we have, and we can look back and you know, we have the timeline of like, okay, it's 2 years until Appomattox. You know, you got another 2 years of this. They don't know that. Lee wants the war to be over now. He's tired of doing this, and he's going to put all his cards on the table while he's up here north to try to win it. So the artillery barrage is going to start from the tree line over there. 150 cannons. And what they're going to do is they're going to use as their target what's called the copse of trees. Now there's some debate. This is what we generally think of as the copse of trees. There's some people who've done some work recently and say, well, we don't think those trees would have been tall enough to really be an effective target. So they're thinking maybe it's this grove of trees over here in, and now I'm forgetting the name of that grove. Ziegler's Grove over there. Maybe they're trying to use that. But most of the artillery ends up firing over here. The problem with using a converging target like this with 150 cannons is you're not going to be able to tell the effect of your own fire. So you're not going to be able to correct your aim, because did your shot hit or did one of the other guy's shots hit? So there's going to be a lot of overshooting that happens because they're trying to fire uphill onto a hilltop. So you're going to do a lot of into the rear. And they're going to cause some supply problems for the Union Army, but they're not really going to dislodge this defensive position. Once the cannons open up, it becomes really super smoky and loud on that side. Union artillery starts responding. It becomes really loud and smoky over here. So it's going to be another issue for the Confederates, is they can't see the effect of what they're firing at. They can't know that they've driven them back. This is probably one of the loudest things that happened on the North American continent up to the point of the atomic bomb testing. There's some reports that I've read of people saying they heard a rumbling in the distance in Pittsburgh, which is 150 miles that way. So there's a lot of action going on over here. It sounded like the end of the world, I'm sure. One of the problems for the Confederates is that the commander of the Union artillery, Henry Hunt, who we talked about in terms of the peach orchard, Hunt is the guy who literally wrote the book on artillery before the Civil War, and he's really, really good. So he realizes pretty early on, the first couple of minutes, that this is not just the Confederates wasting ammunition. This has got to be the prelude to an infantry assault. So he starts going around to his battery commanders and he says, slow down. He's doing that for two reasons. First of all, I want to conserve the ammunition that I have for when the infantry comes. Secondly, since the Confederates can't see if they're having an effect, the only way they're going to be able to tell if they're having an effect is how much return fire they're getting. So if I don't give them as much return fire, they're going to think they're having an impact. So this goes on for probably, there's debate on this, 45 minutes to an hour and a half. I'm going to lean more to the 45-minute side because I don't think the Confederates had that much ordnance with them. This starts around noon, or pardon me, it starts around 1 o'clock. Starts around 1 o'clock, the barrage. So another problem for the Confederates, they don't have a lot of industrial capacity. They have about a 50% failure rate on their explosive ammunition. So that's another reason they're not doing a lot of damage up here. So when the artillery falls silent, they're starting to run low on ammunition. They want to have some to support the infantry advance. But when the infantry gets out here, the artillery is going to stop firing because they don't want to hit their own guys. So once the infantry comes out, they're on their own, marching across this. The Virginia Monument, which is over there in the tree line that's got Lee on top of it, that's about the middle of Pickett's charge. It extends about a half mile to the right, a half mile to the left of men. Somewhere between 13 and 15,000 of them. Coming out of that tree line, marching across this field, about a mile. Another complicating factor for the Confederate attack is there's a barn out here. It doesn't exist anymore, but about where that tree is, middle of that kind of roundish tree down there, there's a barn there. It's a Bliss Farm. and it's like right in the middle of the field. The Confederates had taken it at one point, were using it to kind of snipe at the Union line, so the Union sent guys out there to take it, and then the Confederates sent guys out there to take it, and by that time the Union had enough of this, so they sent the 12th New Jersey out there. They take the barn and they set it on fire, because we've had enough of this, right? So you've got a burning barn and a farmhouse going on that side of the attack as they're trying to come through. So that becomes an obstacle they have to avoid on the way here. That gets missed in a lot of the histories. So it's going to take them, 20 minutes, half an hour to make this move across this field, and they're going to be under long-range artillery fire the whole way. They get up to the fences here. These are the post and rail fences you can't just knock over, so they got to go up and over that first fence. They got to go up and over the second fence, stop, reform the line, make sure everyone's in line, continue back up. At the point that they hit that second fence, they're under the short-range artillery fire, that canister stuff that turns into a shotgun. So this line just gets chewed up with holes coming all over the place. They start trying to converge to punch through, is what they're trying to do. Get enough of a force together to punch through the line, and they do punch through the line at this section of the wall here between the 71st and the 72nd Pennsylvania Monument. About 1,000 guys make it over the wall. There were the guys at the back under the command of Armistead, Brigadier General Lewis Armistead, who's a Maryland guy, actually, a Baltimore guy. His uncle was George Armistead, who was commanding Fort McHenry during the Battle of Baltimore. So rich military history in that family. But they do punch through at this is called the angle here, this goofy little area where the stone wall bends. And then the left side of the attack with the North Carolinians and everything makes it up just short of the wall. You'll see there's another, you can just barely see it probably through the fence, that little pinkish kind of stone monument, very similar to the one we saw on the first day field. Well, it's the same units, 26 North Carolina, those guys that took 588 on the first day. The 212 that are left are participating in Pickett's charge here. They take another 99 casualties doing that. Overall, the casualty rate's about 50% for Pickett's division. And it's not just Pickett's division, it's kind of these other scattered units also participating. But overall, it's about a 50% casualty rate. Every field officer, says major and above, in Pickett's division is a casualty. One of the reasons we don't have a lot of confidence in the Confederate casualty numbers is it's those guys who are supposed to write those reports, and a lot of them were, wiped out, so we're not really too confident on the numbers that we have. Because the reports are probably missing. But by the time those 1,000 guys punch through the wall, Union reinforcements are coming up, and it's not enough. It's just not enough to make any kind of difference. The guys who can make it back to the Confederate line start worrying about trying to set up a defense for a counterattack. Counterattack never comes. Meade is happy to have his good thing. He doesn't want to take the risk of turning it into a great thing by completely wiping out the Confederate army. He's been on the job 6 days. Can't fault the guy too much. July 4th, Lee's going to start pulling out, and the Union's going to send some scouts over to kind of figure out what's going on. They're going to realize that the Confederates are leaving, and they're going to start getting a plan to leave and follow. But the mess that's left over afterwards is just tremendous, and we're going to talk about that tonight. I have some slides about that.
Armistead, Hancock.
You want to do that? No, go ahead, Ken, do it.
I don't know the story that well.
Ah, well, there you go. Armistead, who's the guy, his guys made the breakthrough, and Hancock is the Corps commander of the 2nd Corps in this area. They knew each other from before the war. They served in the old U.S. Army together, and they were stationed in California together, I think. And then they had the tearful goodbye, when the war started. And of course, there's the story about Armistead, saying if I ever raise my hand against you, may God strike me dead. And of course, he's mortally wounded here at the wall. He dies on July 6th in one of the field hospitals on the east side of town. Hancock is also wounded in the attack, but not as major of a wound as what Armistead gets, obviously. I do want to go back up and talk about the cannons, because there's one guy there that I want to